So I just came back from the funeral, and I thought I'd make a quick video, one final video in this series about my friend's unfortunate death, and just talk about sort of concepts for life. And this major concept is what I call your area of responsibility. So let's talk about money, for example. Most people, you ask them, how are you doing financially? What are your, how do you measure your finances? And they're like, oh, I'm doing well. I'm doing great. But actually, when you look at their goals, it's like, what are your goals? To take care of yourself. And that's it. So people, they ease off the pressure. Never mind if you have big goals. I have big goals, so I never do well, quote unquote, financially. I always want more, because that's my goals. I believe that, unless I have at least like $100 million, I'm not really financially free, because I'm not. But take somebody normal who just thinks about, a regular life, who is less able, doesn't really look for that much, and just wants, to have a nice existence, making, good money, having good cash flow, good income, good, good security, and a nice life. So you ask that person, well, how are you doing? And again, he's going to say, I'm doing well. But when you ask him, okay, so who are you doing well in proportion to? Like, do you do well just for yourself? What about your mom? Is she doing well? She's, not so good. She's, she's struggling a bit. Okay, so are you doing well or not? Because I have my mom inside my sort of my area of responsibility, meaning that until I see my mom doing well, I'm not doing well by definition. Because it's like you're a parent, okay, and you have a kid, and your kid just got hit by a fucking car, okay, and he's like in the hospital. Or even just take something less severe, just your kid is sick, really sick, not like deathly sick, but he's sick. Would you consider yourself okay? Like, and I ask you, like, hey, are you okay? You'd be like, yeah, but no. Like, yeah, I'm okay, but no, because my kid is not okay, so I'm not okay. So the more you increase your area of responsibility, the more you realize you're not really where you want. The more you realize that you're not really there yet. So, for example, if you're like, oh, I'm okay, and then I'm like, okay, but what about, what if we include your family, you taking care of your family into that equation? Oh, now you're not doing okay because you have just enough to take care of yourself. You don't have enough to take care of your family. So it's not good. And then you can expand it even further. It's like, okay, you can take care of yourself, you can take care of your family. What about expanding it to just people in general, to taking care of, the world, your neighbor, your city, your family, the world, poverty in general. So the people who are like, billionaires and the really highly successful people, they just increase their sphere of responsibility. They're like, okay, I need to take care of this and this and this and this. Some guy who's like a real estate mogul, he sees the city as his responsibility. So there's like bad buildings, he's like, I need to fix that. It's my responsibility to fix that. Or me as a coach, I look at people who are kind of my kind of people, the people that I want to work with, and I see them not doing well. I don't care. They pay me, they don't pay me. I want to help them. Like, I feel this huge urge, because I look at it like my responsibility. Because, hey, like, I could have, helped this person be successful. Or I have many people who used to be my students and now they're doing really well. And they're, when you do really well, you tend to do stupid shit. So I've done all the stupid shit you can think of. I've probably committed every single big mistake you can think of. That where you kind of, lose a lot, or, just do stupid stuff and then you regret it. So I tell them, oh, don't do this, don't do that. Free advice. I just keep calling them, checking up on them, because I don't want them to do the same mistakes. Because if they will do the mistakes and I didn't tell them about it, and I didn't make sure that they realize about these mistakes, I consider it my fault. I take responsibility for them making these mistakes because I could have prevented that. So again, this ties into my friend who killed himself because he had suicidal tendencies. It was pretty fucking clear. Like, of course, I knew him back when I was like 18, 19, that's when we were hanging out like every day, and I wasn't, nearly as aware or intelligent, so I couldn't like identify it and actually realize how severe it was or how severe it would be given enough time. But I take responsibility for it because it doesn't mean I beat myself up or hate myself or anything, but I take responsibility because I'm like, hey, I could have done something about that. I could have prevented that. So again, if your mom is struggling financially, it's your fault. It's your fault, but not because I'm blaming you, but because you choose to take responsibility for it. So as long as she's not well, you're not well. That's the whole idea of taking responsibility. It's what sphere of influence do you accept as yours? Responsibility. And the more responsibility you take over your actions, over your finances, over other people's finances, over other people's actions, the more you increase your area of responsibility, the more ability you'll have. Because responsibility, again, what does the name say? Response, ability. The ability to respond to something. Basically, anything you take responsibility for, you can change. So if you take responsibility for your mood, like, hey, yeah, I caused my mood, then you are the catalyst. You're what creates the mood. If you don't take responsibility, then he pissed me off. He made me happy. I hate him because he makes me feel bad. Like, you basically at the reaction side all the time. If you don't take care of, for example, if you don't take responsibility over your financial situation, again, just as an example, we could talk about health, we could talk about spirituality, we could talk about your well-being, we could talk about pretty much anything, your education. And I don't mean college education, I mean you learning stuff. Whatever you don't take responsibility for will be determined by fate, basically. If you don't take responsibility for it, you don't have control over it. You're not going to change it. But whatever you do take responsibility for, you're going to be forced to change it in your favor. Because let's say that I decide to take responsibility for my finances. Well, if my finances are bad, I'm going to feel bad. And I won't be able to alleviate that by blaming other people. So when you don't take responsibility for something, you can blame other people or circumstances. Oh, it's because of this, it's because of that. And then you feel good, it makes the bad feeling go away. But when you take responsibility, like, hey, I'm going to take responsibility of arriving on time when I set appointments. So then, let's say you're in traffic, you don't get there and you're like, oh yeah, I know there was traffic, blah, 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 blah. Which basically is reaction, it's an excuse. It means you don't have control. You say, oh, it's my responsibility. I didn't calculate the time. I didn't go early enough. I didn't take into account the traffic. So really, whenever you have any variable in your business that you're not willing to take care of, or in your life, it's what I call like a wild card. It's basically a random variable that you really don't know what's going to happen with it, and you have no control over it. So if you don't take responsibility for your health, for example, then basically what you're saying is, well, I'm going to be at the effect, not at the cause. So whatever happens, I guess I might make an excuse, but at least, don't fucking complain about it, because it's like rolling the dice. Same with finances. If you don't take care of it, if you don't actively decide, I'm going to take care of this, and to have responsibility over this, it's a wild card. And let's expand it even more. Again, you feel comfortable right now because you're like, oh, I'm doing okay financially. But then again, I ask you, like, look, how many years does your mom and dad have? Like, what, 20, 30, 40, 50? Probably between 20 to 40. Don't they deserve, like, to have these years go by without stress, without financial hassle, just relax, wouldn't you want to give them that gift? Don't they deserve it? If you think they do, then you have to take responsibility for their finances. So if their finances are bad, you're not doing well. It's not them. Stop blaming them. Oh, my mom and dad, they don't know anything about money. Okay, so you say you do. Take care of them. Show it. And that's like one of the biggest things that drive me and motivate me, is that I don't want money for myself. I want money for everybody, because that money will enable me to take care of other people also. So and so there's no excuse. It's not like, oh, I'm not feeling motivated today. It's like, yeah, but it doesn't matter. It's like if you're a kid, you're a mom and your kid is sick, you don't feel like taking care of him, well, he can't take care of himself because it's my responsibility. It's that simple. So again, the larger your area of influence, I'll backtrack that. The larger your area of responsibility, the larger your area of influence, because you can change more because you take responsibility. So if you found this helpful, then sit down and ask yourself, like, where am I not taking responsibility at all? Maybe your health, maybe your finances, maybe anything. Where am I taking responsibility only for myself? So for example, financially you're good enough, but what about the family? What about everybody else? And just keep increasing it. And the more you increase it, the more control you're going to have, and the bigger your thinking will be. So let me know if this video helps you, and talk to you soon.